Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is KG. So this is going to be part one of a new series that I'm starting where I'll be answering different questions. Some of the questions will be profound, some will be interesting, some will be a bit more personal. So if you have an inquiring mind like mine, I think you are going to thoroughly enjoy this particular series. Well, I think all of life is a miracle. You know, we are surrounded by miracles every day. The fact that there is something instead of nothing, existence itself to me is a miracle. For example, the anthropic principle is a scientific hypothesis which suggests that if the sun was a little bit further or a little bit closer than it actually is, then life on Earth wouldn't be possible. The sun is just one of the many universal constants which the anthropic principle suggests that if those different constants were slightly different, then life wouldn't exist. So for me, life itself is a miracle simply because so many things have to be precise for life to be possible. So waking up in the morning is a miracle. The fact that the sun rises and sets is a miracle. The fact that we have water is a miracle. The fact that we have natural processes like photosynthesis is a miracle. There's so many natural systems and processes that are in place which make life possible that life couldn't be anything short of a miracle. Phew, that is a big question. So, what do I think the purpose of human life is? Um, I think humans exist as an expression of the creator or the source. So, my understanding is that, the source or the creator, what you would call God, is a formless being or a formless entity. And within that being, that infinite being, there is so much potential, there is so much possibility, to the extent that, in order for that infinite potential to be expressed, the source or God felt the need to create humans, as an expression of himself or as an expression of itself. I think if you really think about it, the source can't have any particular gender, but for the sake of simplicity, whenever I refer to the source or God, I'll use the word he for the sake of simplicity. In fact, I think the broader question should be, what is the purpose of life, period, not just of human life? And like I said, everything is an expression of the source, everything is an expression of the creator, plants, animals, everything in existence is a unique expression of God or the creator. So for me, the purpose of human life, or the purpose of life, is for everything in creation to be the best expression of itself as purposed by the creator. No, I don't think some lives are more important than others. I think the belief that some lives are more important than others is what led to atrocious mass murders like the Holocaust. It's what led to, unjust systems like apartheid. It's what led to slavery in America and other parts of the world. So I definitely don't believe that anyone's life is more important than others. All lives matter, regardless of race, regardless of creed, regardless of nationality. We all have something valuable to give to the world. So, our lives do matter. I absolutely love this question. So, what does it mean to die well? In my personal opinion, to die well is to die having fulfilled the purpose for which you were created. The greatest tragedy of life is not death. I believe that the greatest tragedy in life is dying having fallen short of what you were created to do. People who have fulfilled their divine mandate or the reason they exist don't fear death. because you are here to fulfill a particular purpose. And if you have been successful in doing that, then it means you are done on this particular plane of existence and you are ready to move on to other planes. And I think, as an additional point, um, another way for one to die well is by knowing that death in this physical plane of existence is not the end. We are eternal beings. We are spirit beings. We possess a soul and we live in a body. So earthly death is not the end of us. So I think, having come to that understanding, as a human being, you can die well, coupled with the fact that you completed your mission in this particular plane of existence. I'm not an expert in Armageddons or apocalypses, but I think my best answer would be a pandemic. I think what COVID-19 has done, it has exposed our level of vulnerability as a species in terms of dealing with a global pandemic. COVID-19 was not as bad as other pandemics in history. Don't get me wrong, a whole lot of people have lost their lives, and it has impacted our lives in ways that we never thought possible. And I hope it doesn't get worse than it actually is. But could this be some type of warning for us as a species in terms of our behavior? Because if you study the sources, or if you study the source of this pandemic, it basically originates from human behavior. So the certain things that we do as a species that is basically detrimental to our own existence. So what if the next pandemic, based on our behavior, based on our own actions, becomes more severe than this, to the point where it spreads quicker, it's more deadly, it's more harder to control. So I think there could be a whole lot of things that could result in the extinction of our species. But I think right now, a pandemic is the most likely thing that can bring our species to an end. Another interesting question. Well, the simple answer is no. I wouldn't open it. And the simple reason for that is, there's a reason why, the creator didn't create death in such a way that we know when it's going to happen. That mystery surrounding death is there for a reason. I may not know the exact, reasons for that, but there's a reason why. I mean, if you knew when your last day was going to be, it was going to affect how you live. Some people would be very irresponsible. I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's a movie I saw a couple of years ago where this guy was told that he has a couple of days to live, and as a result, he cared about nothing. He started going out there and doing reckless things, hurting others. But at the same time, it depends on the individual. Someone else, having heard the same news, might not react the same way. Someone else might actually take that and sort of work harder and just be the best they can be. That's why they say, live your life as if you were going to die tomorrow. Live each moment as if it was your last. But for the purpose of the question, I wouldn't open that envelope. I think the mystery of death is okay as it is for me. Well, the fact that I might be less attractive than I actually think I am. Geez, how do we move from a simple question to such a profound question? Well, I've always been fascinated with the concept of free will versus fate or destiny, predestination, those kind of concepts. And I think, after having done a number of studies on these subjects, I've come to the conclusion that both free will and fate exist. So, to answer the question, I think free will does exist. It's not an illusion, but it's limited. And what do I mean by that? I believe that we are all role players in God's story. We are all in a script that was written by God, and we were all assigned certain roles to play. And our free will only applies to the extent that we can make our own decisions in terms of what you're going to wear tomorrow, in terms of what vocation you are going to pursue, or which field of study you are going to pursue. But I think our free will is limited when viewed in the context of the greater scheme of things. For instance, the Bible says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the purpose of God that prevails. So I can have free will to make decisions, to do what I think I want to do or whatever I want to do. But my free will is not, maybe let me put it like this. My personal will is not strong enough to override the will of God. I believe that I was created for a reason, for a purpose, and I believe that certain doors, for instance, that don't open in my life, it's because they are not in line with God's plan for my life. And there's so many things that I wanted to do in my journey, and some of those things didn't happen because I believe it's because my free will was overridden by God's will for my life. So I had free will to go to the club, to hit on girls, to have fun, but I was restricted at the same time. My free will only went as far as God would allow, until He came in and said, "Wow, my will for your life will prevail." So in that context, I think, and this could be different for everyone. Perception is perspective. So I'm basing my answer purely on my own experience in terms of how I view the world as it relates to free will and fate. That's an easy one. That would be the universal law of karma. The reason why so much evil and injustice and pain and all these things exist in the world is because many people don't understand that as a man plants, so he shall reap. This is a universal law that the Creator put in place as some type of divine justice system. So if there was one concept that I would teach every single human being from all walks of life, it would be the fact that every action has a reaction. Everything we do is like planting a seed. If you, for instance, cheat on someone, you think you're slick, you think you are smart, you think they are the fool, but you're not realizing that you are planting this for yourself, and that's exactly what you will reap. So if everyone understood that concept, I think we would have a more peaceful world, because things like war, things like greed, things like even poverty exists because people don't understand that acts of selfishness are actually acts that we are planting, and whether it's in this life or the next, we will reap that as well. And it might not even come to us; it could come to future generations that we give birth to. Some type of curse can come into our family line because of something that we did many generations ago. So we need to always be cognizant of the fact that everything we do is like planting a seed, and that is exactly what we are going to harvest. This is universal law. It cannot be changed. And understanding this, like I said, will influence a whole lot of behaviors, because before you steal, you'll think about the fact that you're planting a seed that you must one day harvest. When you cheat on someone, you will always remember that you're doing this to yourself, and it will come to you as well, as divine justice comes back to balance the scales. Before you do something responsible, you will think about that as an action of planting, and you will sort of refrain yourself from doing it. So if everyone would have it at the back of their minds that every action is like planting a seed, I think we would have a way better world. The reason why there are so many problems in the world, so many injustices in the world, is because of selfishness. And the best way to curb selfishness is to understand that we are one, and everything you do, you are doing to yourself. So that will definitely eliminate a whole lot of selfishness, again, resulting in a way better world. This is a very tricky question. And the reason I say that is because I believe that the reason why suffering is necessary is because of our fundamental selfish nature. And it's a pity that as humans, we only tend to do the right thing after having gone through some type of suffering. For instance, we usually only learn to love the right way after our heart was broken somewhere else. So, based on that, I would say then suffering is a good thing in a sense that it shapes behavior, it shapes character, you know, whether it's a fundamental human condition or need. I'm not sure, but purely based on the results of suffering, depending on how you perceive it as well. It's not a general thing. Other people can suffer in a certain way and not become better. They can actually become worse than they were. But I think if your perspective is right, suffering can serve you, where you learn from your mistakes, because oftentimes we make bad decisions, and those bad decisions can land us in uncomfortable or in ideal circumstances.